And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show. It is Tuesday, September 12th. I am Josh Engleman here to break down a 10-game MLB slate. Should be a good one for everybody today. Hope you had some success yesterday, either in the NFL streets or in the MLB streets. I did not have success in the MLB streets because I barely got lineups in, folks. It was a rough one. Process broke down right around 7 o'clock. Couldn't get anything in. Put in a dummy lineup. Thought that I clicked somebody else, but I ended up putting Jordan Lawler in. So I ended up locking him 100%. He had 2 plate appearances. Didn't get a point. It took me until just before 7:40 to be able to run everything and get off of just a train lineup and swap to whatever was left from 7:40 on. Big stand on the Cubs. That wasn't the answer. So we move on to today. 10 games. Royals game, not a part of the main slate, even though it is starting at that time, I believe. Yankees second half of the doubleheader is a part of this slate. We will get to every one of those games in a bit. First and foremost, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. And now, a moment of silence for the career of Aaron Rodgers. Assuming Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles, I do not believe that he will ever step foot on the field again. Inner Circle Hall of Famer. Sad to see it go down like that, man. It's a real bummer. Everybody, no matter what jokes want to get made, man, it sucks to see someone as high level as Aaron Rodgers have their career end like that, with all of this potential fun moving forward. Sucks, man. Sucks. You don't want to see that for anybody. Everything that he's ever known for like the past 20 years. Moment's notice, snapped away. Sucks. Anyway, not too much else to add there. My sim should be just about done. Yep, just about done. So we're going to rip through these 10 games. We're going to get out of here by the top of the hour so that the NFL Strategy Show can commence. We'll talk a little bit of Owner's Box. They are the sponsor of today's show. We'll certainly be talking about Owner's Box in a little bit. Lots to talk about, though. Fun slate. I thought my big issue yesterday when I couldn't get in had to do with all the rain games, but unfortunately, it was Josh Donaldson was mapped in my ID file to the Yankees, not Milwaukee, and that ended up causing major issues for me, unfortunately. But now, all we got to do is dive in. Clayton, am I making any progress on my NFL model? Sort of. I mostly ground it to a halt. I realized pretty quickly that I didn't care. So probably just going to rely on all of the fantastic tools at Stochastic, like I did on Sunday for the Owner's Box contest, where I 150 maxed Owner's Box using our brand new Sims Max tool. Did a great job and finished in the top 10. So, but no, I realized that I just hate the NFL. So it's that easy. Let's get into baseball here as I refresh my model to find out what we're going to have for today. So let me save this first before I refresh. You always want to save before you refresh any data because you never know when it's just going to crash a workbook like it does for me so frequently that you want to just make sure that you're going to be good to go. So I've got this refreshing. Oh, wow. That is a staggering amount of the Arizona Diamondbacks with quite a bit of the Cubbies on the back end. We're going to go ahead and just lower that now so it looks a little bit more realistic. So let's drop the Diamondbacks. Wow, I can't even drop them that far. Oh, never mind. I know why it's forcing the Diamondbacks, because I hard-coded forcing Jordan Lawler into all of my additional crunches. So let's go ahead and remove the fact that Jordan Lawler does not have to be forced into all of my stacks today. All right, so let's fix that formula before we do anything. You guys can see Blue Jays Rangers game pulled up to start. Oh, now we've got some different exposures. That'll work. Looks like we're going to the Yankees today. Didn't get a chance to do that yesterday. Don't really love taking them in a doubleheader, but we are going to do that just because. So let's go ahead. We know we're going to get to the Cubs. That's not going to be all that surprising, but we need to know what we're getting to everywhere else. And on that note, I think it's now time for us to start the show. Here we go, everybody. 55 minutes. Well, we'll go 50 minutes until we got to get out of here and turn it over to NFL Live Before Lock. If you haven't hit the like button yet, do so now. It is required for this show. Blue Jays and Rangers. 4.1 run implied total here for Toronto, and a 4.3 run implied total for the Rangers. I have the Blue Jays 12th in top stack. I have the Rangers 11th. We'll talk about Ryu first. He is 8,600 on the Toronto side, 1% owned. Max Scherzer on the opposite side, 11,300. That's the second most expensive price tag on any pitcher today, $500 behind Freddie Peralta. I have him 15% to be a top 2 pitcher, and I have him at 1% top value. I don't think anybody's going to be all that surprised in those numbers. Key takeaway there for us is just simply that he's really, really expensive. And that is a very, very difficult price tag to get to. Is the ceiling there? Of course. Of course. We have him 17% top 2 pitcher. So is Max Scherzer under-owned? Yes. Jake, I haven't refreshed that table yet. Try looking at it now. It'll look a little bit better. So I don't hate the idea of getting to Max Scherzer. The park's not bad for him. It's scary, certainly, from a power perspective. But if he's going to be unowned, I don't think it's crazy. I do think he's under-owned, but based on the way that I see it right now, I'm going to have some trouble getting to any sort of volume. But if you wanted to go to 12% or so of Scherzer, I don't think that's a crazy scenario. Like, I think his optimal ownership is probably around 10 just because of his price. It's a little bit higher than 6, but I don't think that either pitcher here is really what we're looking for. And then as we look at stacks, 15th in ownership for the Rangers. There's only 20 teams. 19th for the Blue Jays. It's not as if people are trying to target against Scherzer. I know this game went pretty well yesterday, but I don't really see this one as appealing for any sort of DFS run. Like, Ryu doesn't get enough strikeouts and he doesn't get hit hard. So I don't really want Ryu at 8,600. And while I don't mind having the Rangers with Semien, with Seager, the power of Mitch Garver or Duran, but I don't really want to target against Ryu because he's not that kind of guy. And you're seeing that in the total here. 4.1 for the Jays, 4.3 for the Rangers. So, I have 5 stacks of Texas. I have 7% of Semien and 9% of Mitch Garver. It's not like I'm getting to these guys a lot. It's just filler. And then on the opposite side, it's not as if I'm like ultra interested in getting Blue Jays bats against Scherzer. I mean, surely he does give up some power, 188 x ISO to righties. For Springer, for Bichette, for Garrett. Like, someone probably takes Scherzer yard. He probably gives up a solo home run. He kind of does it all the time. That doesn't make me want the Blue Jays, though. They're the second least owned team, and I think that's pretty reasonable. So as I look at game number 1, I see it as like a mostly stay away. You might pick off individual bats here or there. It's more of a contrarian play to go to anything in this game. I just don't see it. Next game up, Mets and Diamondbacks. That's a 4.9 run implied total for New York, 5 for the Diamondbacks. You don't normally see this big of a total in whatever New Shea is called. But that's what we're getting today. You don't normally see it in a pitcher's park like this, but it is happening. Jose Butto going for the Mets. Ryan Nelson going for the Diamondbacks. This is probably why. You guys should be pretty used to this. at this point, but I am getting to a little bit of Buto at 2% owned, and I am getting to 5% of Ryan Nelson. These are not interesting things. It's just me grabbing value at the bottom on the opposite side of some of the guys that are pulling ownership. No more than 10% here. We have Buto 4% top pitcher, 11% top value. He should probably be in that 5 to 10% range of ownership. Similar story for Nelson. He's basically the same, just a couple $100 cheaper. Neither one of these guys are any good, but the park will help. And if you need value, I don't think it's crazy. Neither guy is a priority by any means. Don't go there like that. Made myself a breakfast Sammy this morning. Toasted up a nice buttermilk English muffin, seared off a nice sausage, little American cheese, scrambled up an egg with an extra egg yolk, a little bit of Cholula hot sauce. Mwah, fantastic. All right, bats here. I guess we need to start with the Diamondbacks. So they are 4th in our top stack tool, 2nd in value. Now I'm a little bit lighter on both things. I have it 7th and 6th. But they certainly look good. They're a top 5 stack today because of the combination of upside and value. That said, I don't love it. Like, does Corbin Carroll look good in the leadoff spot? Yeah, absolutely. Probably paying close attention to him in cash games if you can. I mean, you're going to go to the Cubs first. But I think Corbin Carroll's fine. I think Ketel Marte looks good. Pham, Walker, Thomas. I do think that Arizona should be a highly ranked team. They're 2nd in ownership right now at 11%. To me, that's just a little bit high. I really just, on a slate this size, to get to a team like Arizona, north of 10% in the aggregate, on a day with a Coors game, where they're in New York in a park that plays down runs and power, it's just not for me. So I am very, very light on Arizona out of the gate. You guys can see it here. I have about 3% aggregate ownership at 11. This is my biggest fade for now in large field contests. Looking at them a little bit differently in smaller field stuff for sure. But as I evaluate the team right now, I don't love the idea of getting to Arizona in large field. I assume it's because of the Red Sox and the Yankees. I also assume that they're not going to look right in our top stacks and top pitchers tool. So maybe that changes as we move on today. But for now, it kind of feels like bad chalk. I don't know. Clearly facing, like, the matchup works. There's no denying that. Although, to be fair, in the 350 pitches that Jose Buto has thrown, he hasn't given up any power. I'm staying away from Arizona. On the opposite side, the Mets are, somewhere around 8th or 9th in top stack, about 7th in top value. They're 5th in ownership at 6%. They're probably a little over-owned. Again, not a team that I'm trying to get to. I don't mind, should you target against Ryan Nelson? Yeah, he gives up a ton of power. 206 x ISO to lefties, 233 to righties. But again, we're in New York. I know the run total looks really appealing here, but I find this game to be less about the bats. I want to be there a little bit lighter than what the field is doing. I think this game is a sneaky stay away. I think the Blue Jays Rangers game looks like what it is on paper. This game is quite popular from a hitting perspective, and I don't totally agree with it. I really don't. And I'm okay with that too. Now we get into the game that I think is most important. It's the same game that I thought was most important yesterday. Now, do I like taking teams in the second half of a doubleheader? No, I do not. Clayton, I wouldn't not use anyone in anything. Depending on how that lineup grades out, I might be totally fine. I would be surprised if I did. But, if your 3-man stack is low owned and, maybe you want to go to, that becomes like a Scherzer stack somehow, then you're already very unique. 5.3 run implied total for Boston, 4.8 for the Yanks. Cutter, Crawford, and Carlos Rodon. That actually might be too big of a total for these guys. Do I have the right line for this game? Let's double check that. 108, 126, just under 9. Yeah, I probably have the first line in for this Yankees game. Sure do. It's a little bit lower than this. Do I want to rerun it? No, it's not going to change anything too much. We could talk through the logistics of it. Well, this line's a little high, but it's Cutter Crawford and it's Carlos Rodon. We kind of just talked about this with both of these guys recently. I guess we'll start on the Cutter Crawford side. He's 5,700. I typed in his ownership manually. We know he gives up a lot of power to lefties. That doesn't really matter too much against the Yankees. It's Jake Bauers and Florial with any sort of lefty power. It's mostly a sea of righties. I think Cutter Crawford looks like a completely reasonable option against the Yanks today at 5,600 or 5,700. I think he's a really nice value play. Especially because I think there's a lot of strikeouts here, and his biggest issues just don't really exist on New York. Now, on the opposite side, we did this one a week ago. We went to Carlos Rodon. Today, he is 7,300. Matchup against the Red Sox. He has been straight dog balls in basically everything that he has done this year. It's been really bad. 343 x ISO to lefties, 200 to righties. He's not striking out righties in any way. It's a real problem. Zach, I think it's Zach asked the question, why take the White Sox Royals off, but not Yankees in Boston? I think the Yankees Boston game is still starting at the same time. The White Sox Royals game moved their start time up, I think. So you can't make that change. Look, I assume Rodon gets some ownership at 7,300, somewhere in that 10% range. I assume that's what I end up getting, but I don't know what to do with him anymore. We had this conversation last week. Nothing has changed. He's an enigma. I don't know how to project him. None of it makes sense. The velocity hasn't changed. I just don't know what to do with Carlos Rodon at this point. So I'm just going to play him like I normally do and hope that I end up right in the long run. But 8 hits, 7 runs, a home run, no walks in the last start, but just imminently hittable against the Tigers. We shall see where that goes. But I think you probably want 10 to 15% of both pitchers. But I also think you want the hitting. I think you want every bit of this game. I think the Yankees' bats are certainly interesting against Crawford. I know that he tends to give up a little bit more power to lefties, but I don't give a shit about that for Aaron Judge, for Torres, for Stanton. I expect, like I did yesterday, the Yankees to be one of my more exposed teams, as they are right now. But at the same time, I think that has to happen for the Red Sox too. Now, we're going to expect some ownership here, and you should. But you have to be primed and ready to want to take on Carlos Rodon, especially if you're Rafael Devers or Tristan Casas, 2 lefty bats. I don't know what's up with Rodon, but he just simply has not been able to get a lefty out. He's thrown 84 fastballs to lefties this year. 84. He's given up a 528 ISO, X-ISO, to lefties there. I mean, 500 X ISO to Devers and to Casas, it's almost like a guaranteed home run. So I really like this game across the board. I'll like the hitting a little bit less, and I'm actually going to like the pitching a little bit more when I update this line. But if I had to rank this game, honestly, it's going to be Cutter Crawford, Yankees bats, Carlos Rodon, Red Sox bats. Do with that what you will. But I think Crawford looks pretty good as a value option. I think there's going to be a lot of strikeouts there. Lineup will matter a lot, though. Remember, second half of the doubleheader, you're going to see a lot of weird stuff after you know the first lineup. All right, first 3 games are in the books. We can talk a little bit about schedule for the rest of the day. I myself am here until just shy of 11 o'clock. NFL Strategy Show, Laffy and Ben coming up at 11 a.m. So right after me, you get NFL Strategy. And then it's easy. There are no other live shows for the rest of the day until you get to MLB Live Before Lock. Neil, Matthew Bellman, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, taking you all the way up until 7. It's going to be a good time, folks. Great slate. I'll be around. Hit me up on Twitter. I'm certainly playing this slate. Should be a fun one. Wife's got dinner club with the friends tonight, so I have nothing to do but sit around and think about MLB DFS. Brewers and Marlins, 4.5 run implied total for Milwaukee, 3.6 for the Marlins. Freddie Peralta and Edward Cabrera. So, Freddie Peralta is 11,800. That's the most expensive pitcher on today's slate. Now, Park plays up power, does play down runs a little bit. Edward Cabrera on the opposite side for the Marlins, 8,100. Only 3% ownership going to Cabrera. Should probably be around 5, so no complaints. Not the guy that you're looking for here. Peralta, though, is the guy that we got to talk about because there's some ceiling for Freddie Peralta. 26% K rate to lefties this year. Whew, it's hard to say with this one with like a straight face and make you guys believe it. 36% K rate to righties for Freddie Peralta. Now, he's going to waver between lefties and righties, but he's good against all of them. 123 X ISO to lefties. 160 to righties. Massive strikeout matchup. The run total for the Marlins is very low. If this were in Miami, it might look a little bit different. That said, 24% to be a top 2 scoring pitcher for Peralta, 23% in mine. So I'm in lockstep with the site. How old should he be at 11.8? I don't know, 15 to 20, somewhere in that neighborhood. He's a bit overowned. And that's why I'm getting to just the field of Freddie Peralta. I see it as pretty difficult to take that stand. So I'm just not going to be taking a giant stand. It's hard to get all the way to the top here, but he looks fantastic. He's just priced for it. Edward Cabrera on the opposite side at 8,100, I think is going to be pretty difficult to get to. One, not a guy that goes incredibly deep into games. Now, the strikeout stuff will be awesome. But in the projected lineup that I have, we don't have a ton of strikeouts to be had for Milwaukee. So a couple percentage points worth of Edward Cabrera is fine. I see no real mechanism to want to go to Miami unless you want to be on the opposite side of ownership, but there's no real ownership for Peralta. So I would say I think the Marlins are the worst team you could play today. Ignoring leverage. It's just a really bad spot against Peralta. Now, for the Brewers bats against Cabrera, I don't see much here. They're just a middle-of-the-pack team. They're 7th in ownership. We have them 8th in stack score. I don't think they're a great value. It's $5,300 Yelich, $4,900 Contreras, and then you're down to $4,300. So nothing crazy there. It's not like there's nothing too bad with that one. But as we keep it moving, I just don't see this game as anything you want to go crazy for, other than if you can get to Peralta, get to Peralta. That's the way that I look at it. 11.8 is a big price tag, but his strikeout ceiling is massive. I don't want much else in this game. The most I have of anybody that isn't Peralta is 5% of William Contreras. Twins and Rays, 4.3 run implied total for Minnesota, 3.9 for the Rays. Joe Ryan going for the Twins. Zach Littell going for the Rays. 9,500 for Ryan, 6,700 for Littell. Let's start with Joe Ryan. 29% owned here. Decent enough strikeout matchup. And Joe Ryan is clearly talented. Probably a bit over-owned. We have him 20% top 2 pitcher, 10% value. I had it at 25 and 10. I think he should probably be like 20% owned. So he's a hair too high, which is bringing me down on him. I'd say that he, Verlander, and Brian Wu are like the 3 best guys you can get to today. But I don't mind it. It's just 29% is too much. Joe Ryan has been quite the enigma against righties. Is he striking out 34% of them this year? Yeah, that's a massive, massive, massive number. However, he's also given up a 206 X ISO to righties. So very boom bust for Joe Ryan. And I think that's good for large field GPPs. You're willing to take the boom. The bust doesn't matter. You're trying to win. It doesn't matter if you finish 6,000th or 20,000th in a contest. I like Joe Ryan, but I'm not going to have a ton. Littell on the opposite side, though, 6,700. Not bad. If you need a value guy, he's 7% owned. He was 7% top 2 pitcher, plus a little bit more value. He's given up a bit of power to righties, 199 x ISO. He's got no strikeouts in his arm to be found, but if you're looking for value, I think there are worse options to find than Zach Littell, and that's shown by the fact that he's getting a little bit of ownership. Now, for hitting, I don't really have much here. Neither does the public. Twins are 11th in ownership. Rays are 14th. It's 4% and 2.5% for both. I have 5 Twin stacks and 7 Rays stacks, so I'm basically right around the field. I have a little bit more of the Rays. I think I'm okay with that, just given the power struggles we've talked about for Joe Ryan and righties. But again, like you're prioritizing pitching here more than anything else. The highest owned bat is 9% owned Kirilloff. There's nobody that you need to go overwhelmingly to. I do think Tampa is probably like a little under-owned, but that's besides the point. I think the priority is Joe Ryan. You're certainly looking at Joe Ryan in cash games. I'm not sure he's my favorite GPP option with where his ownership lies right now. I wouldn't be surprised if I end up late, but he is the first thing you get to in this matchup. After that, it's probably Littell. Then for me, Rays bats, Twins bats. You got to remember to grade out these games at the end of each game, I guess. So we're through 5 games. We're at the halfway point. We're just about at the middle of what we have going on here. 5 more games to go. I'm going to pull up a nice little banner to put on the screen so that we can talk a little bit about the sponsor of this show. I like talking about the sponsor of this show. It went as well as I could have hoped that it would go for week 1 in the NFL. Now, as I look at it, shout out to Owner's Box for being the sponsor. They have not, at least not that I see, they have not posted their Sunday contest yet. I don't know if we see that today or tomorrow, but I'm going to keep an eye on that one. We want to get that Sunday contest out. I think you guys should sign up at Owner's Box for, well, a couple reasons. But the first is the easiest reason of all of it. You're going to get 1 week of our NFL Sims Max package, as long as you sign up using the link in the description. If you have any trouble and you run an ad blocker, turn off the ad blocker. For some reason, it does something weird with our links. So if you just turn that off temporarily, click that link to go to Owner's Box, you'll be fine. You're going to get a free week of our NFL Sims Max package. This is the exact tool that I used to develop all of the lineups that I played on Owner's Box for week 1. I loaded everything. I simulated the contest structure. I simulated all of the lineups. I boosted my stacks. I did all of that just to load it into Owner's Box. I finished 10th. Steve Buzzard, DeColts, was also in the top 10. Come join us at Owner's Box because that makes it easy. You have the tool right in front of you, and you could use it for DraftKings, FanDuel, wherever else you're playing. You also get up to $500 of a bonus match on your first deposit. So if you put in $500, they're going to match with $500. Now, if you put in $100, they'll match with $100. You need to deposit at least $10. Now, it becomes Owner's Bucks. And as you play through it, it trickles out about 4%. Pretty standard for the industry. But you can get up to 500 of that as long as you deposit 500. To me, no brainer. My expectation, and I talked about it a lot last week, my expectation for this Sunday will be a contest pretty similar to what we saw in week 1. I think we'll probably be staring at reduced rake, potentially some overlay, but I would expect at least some reduced rake. And right away, that's just going to make it an incredible contest for you to enter. Probably the best one you will find, especially because you get the tools with it. So if you haven't done it yet, sign up for Owner's Box using the link in the description of this video. All righty, folks, let's keep it moving. Pull the sheet back up. Boom, we are on. And we go to interesting game here. We've got a really interesting set of days with Coors and these Astros and Dodgers games where, hey, I got to buckle up for this one. 5.4 run implied total for Houston. 3.2 for the A's. Houston's a favorite on the run line, man. This is a tough spot. This is a very, very tough spot for the Astros. For the A's. So we'll start with Verlander. He's 10,700, projected for 24% ownership. He is the third most expensive pitcher on today's slate. I think that is okay for today. I don't really mind it too much. Now, he has sort of lost the strikeout stuff that we were used to. 21% K rate to righties and lefties this year. Lefties don't hit him hard. Righties still get him up to a 170 X ISO. Now, the A's do have some power. Geloff, Noda, Seth Brown, Langoliers, Soderstrom. These guys have some pop. And this park is neutral. But I think you have to play at least a little bit of Verlander. I think he looks basically dead equal to Joe Ryan. It's just such a good matchup. Other than Tony Kemp, lots of strikeouts in this A's lineup. Maybe we'll get lucky and he won't be there. But 32% K rate to Geloff, to Noda, 27 to Seth Brown. Do I want to be spending 10-7 on Verlander? No, not really. But I think 24% ownership is basically correct. This is an incredible spot. His expectation of giving up runs is very, very low. Sometimes it's just the matchup. And in this particular case, I think the matchup is great. Maybe Verlander goes the way of Aaron Rodgers. Who knows? Both old men at this point. But last start for Verlander in Texas, 7 innings, 4 hits. He gave up 2 runs, 1 home run, 6 Ks, 1 walk. Like, I don't want to say that that's a great game, but that's sort of like the expectation performance here against Oakland. So I like Verlander. I don't like JP Sears against the Astros. I'd like to get some more Astros. They're 8th in ownership at 6% in the aggregate. I have them 7% to be a top stack. The only problem here is that they're just really expensive, but you're paying for the talent too. Altuve, Alvarez, Bregman, Tucker. These guys are all 5,600 or more. They should be. They warrant those price tags. I actually think that like Jeremy Pena might be the sneaky best option from Houston. $4,400 shortstop in the 2-hole. I only have 6 stacks. I'm neutral to the field, but if you're a person that really likes Houston today, I'm not talking you out of that at all. I just don't have the salary to get there, and that's what's slowing me down. But 158 X ISO to lefties with a 17% K rate for Sears, 223 X ISO to righties, 23% K rate. The righty power of Altuve, of Bregman, of Abreu, of Diaz. It's going to be tough sledding for JP Sears. So it's Verlander for me, then Astros bats. A's bats, I guess, just because of Verlander's ownership, and then JP Sears. And now we get to Coors. 5.1 run implied total here for Colorado, 6.4 for the Cubbies. By the way, hit that like button. Chris Flexen going for Colorado, Javier Assad going for the Cubs. Don't play the pitchers. Let's just start there. We know what we're doing here. We got to start with the Cubs. Number 1 in top stack, somewhere in like the 23% top stack range. They're an excellent value as well, even with their price tags. They're number 1 in ownership at 15%. I have no problem whatsoever getting to the Cubs. I will have them. I'll probably be at least neutral to the field, if not a bit higher. A lot of one-offs and two-mans and three-mans for sure. But it's Chris Flexen, guys. It's Chris Flexen. The most likely scenario of anything that happens today is that Chris Flexen gets destroyed. 776 pitches thrown to righties this year. A 12% K rate and a 260 X ISO. Sign me up. It's righty season for the Cubbies. But I think the other piece that we want to talk about is Colorado. I have them 3rd in top stack, as do we. They're 7th in ownership at 6%. I've got 10. I have 18 Rockies stacks. I think it's just as interesting to be on the opposite side. I'm not at all concerned with Javier Assad. Does he give up a lot of power? No. 160 X ISO to lefties, 150 to righties. Strikeout rate, though, under 20%. He generates no swinging strikes, so the bat is going to get on the ball. Blackman, Tovar, Elias Diaz, all in double digits for me. Most owned guy in the Rockies lineup is 8% owned Brendan Rodgers. He's 3,500 today. So I think the Rockies look really nice in large field, but don't get away from the Cubs. They're the clear top stack for today. Cubs bats, Rockies bats, and then that's it. If I had to explain that one, well, that's not very good. I'm gonna take a sip of water. Throat's killing me. There we go. Alrighty. Mariners and Angels. 4.5 run implied total for the Mariners, 3.1 for the Angels. It didn't go great for Logan Gilbert. Maybe it looks a little bit different for Brian Wu today. 7,900, 34% owned, and I don't really have much to disagree with. I have 44%. His price tag just makes it too good. So Wu doesn't strike out lefties at all, just ever. And he gives up some power, 184 x ISO. But Seattle's Park plays down runs and plays down lefty power a little bit. Righties this season against Wu, 567 pitches, a .070 x ISO, and a 29% K rate. I love this spot for Wu. His $7,900 price tag is dumb. This is the first guy you're putting into cash lineups. He is a premier cash option pitcher for today. Gotta have him. I got 44%. I'm happy with it. Ooh, Jesse's thinking he's a fade today because of the pitch count. Do we want to talk through that at least a little bit? I think we can. So I gave him just shy of 5 1/3 innings today. He went 5 his last start, 6 innings the start before that. We saw 83 pitches 8 days ago against Seattle, or against Cincinnati, rather. I figure, 85 pitches is probably the most likely scenario. Feels like around 5 innings. I think the real appeal here is just the fact that the Angels are awful. There's a team with a 3.1 run implied total. I don't think you need a ton at 7,900 from Brian Wu. I get it. Like this, he's not a guy that's going to be going very deep in this game. But that strikeout rate against righties, very appealing. Jordan Adams, if you're in the lineup, you're dead in the water. So load up on Wu. That's my message. That's what I'm going to do. I'll be different elsewhere. I'll also take a little bit of Patrick Sandoval. 14% owned. Seems spot on. 10% top 2 pitcher, 10% top 2 value. I get more Sandoval than I probably want, but doesn't give up any power, doesn't get strikeouts either, but feels safe here, especially in Seattle. Could have a decent start, just not giving up any runs. If you want to go to the Angels bats against a 34% owned Wu, I'm not going to tell anybody not to do that. I don't have it. I don't have a single share of the Angels today. I don't expect to get there, but that is the sort of path you would take. Just don't do it. 17th in ownership here for Seattle, 1.7% owned. I basically don't have the Mariners either. I certainly don't mind getting to Seattle, but we have them 17th in top value. I have them 20th. They're very difficult to roster at those price tags. And they're one of they're in the bottom half of top stack odds. So I see this game as basically Wu, Sandoval, Mariners, Angels. That's the way that I'm playing that one out today. Wow, we're moving a little bit faster than I expected. I didn't see that one coming. So I guess it's probably in my best interest to talk about this quickly. Let me pull it up before we hit our final 2 games. Grab the link. Should have had this one pulled up before. But alas, we'll get to it now. Let's just say that you don't want to play ad owners box, guys. Maybe that's not what you're looking for. I at least want to detail what it is I'm talking about for what you get if you do want to just come over and get into the stochastic streets. That's going to be our NFL Sims package. You see it on the screen right now. If you just wanted data, you can go that way. If you just want to test out the max package for a week, it's going to be $60. I know that sounds like a lot. So if you don't have that kind of volume, I totally understand. This page, it's stochastic.com/join NFL. If you go to stochastic.com and head to the Stochastic Plus tab and click join, you'll get there. I could sit here and explain everything that we have, what you're getting, the ability to generate up to 10,000 lineups in like a minute, simulate them against themselves, check the ROI on stacks and players and lineups. You can do all of that. But my recommendation is to just come to this page and read it. And I know nobody wants to read these days. They want the TLDR on this, but all of the information around this brand new package that we've dropped for the NFL is on this page. It'll describe it better than I ever could. You've got screenshots that take out all of the sections that we have and show you everything that exists in this NFL Sims tool. I'm scrolling and scrolling. You're seeing more and more information, projections and contest structure, all of the top stacks and top boom bust data, ownership, project, all of that stuff is right there. But then you also get to the bottom. We have a giant frequently asked questions section that will explain what the Sims are, what the differences are between those packages, correlations, which sites we use. Everything that you could want to know about our Sims tool is all going to be found here. So sign up using the link in the description. Come join us with the NFL Sims package. I loved it for Owner's Box. If you want to go that direction, I get it. If you're a DraftKings or a FanDuel person, if that's your path, this tool will work for you for both of those sites. I used it for DK as well. It's a fantastic opportunity to get in now on the ground floor. We're adding more and more stuff as the days go on. Come join us, folks. NFL Sims tool, preferably the Max edition. And now we're going to close it out. The final two games of the slate. Obi-Wan, what's going on? Jordan Klein in the house, hitting me with the Chinese spy. Let's maybe not bring that back anytime soon. Not fun. Yeah, Jesse, I'm with you there. The problem is that I don't think that there's anything around Woo that even looks even close to comparable. Alrighty. Final two games. Giants and Guardians. 4.3 run implied total for the Giants, 3.9 for the Guardians. Sean Manaea getting the start here for San Francisco. Cal Quantrill is going for Cleveland. We've got Manaea. I got him in for just shy of 5 innings, 5,700, 18% owned. Great value option. I think he looks a lot like what Cutter Crawford will look like. I think it'll be a nice balance between the two, but in San Francisco here, it's a terrible strikeout matchup. Let's not forget that. The Guardians don't strike out at all, but that's okay because Manaea is 5,700. Perfectly good value option in San Francisco. Power should be limited. I also don't mind getting to Cal Quantrill at 5,500. Is he bad? Is he a guy that I don't like getting to? Yes. Very much so, yes. However, he's 5,500. I don't think he's all that different than Sean Manaea has a value option or Cutter Crawford. He's got major power problems against righties, but we are in a park that has an 82 park factor to righties. So I am going to get a little bit of Cal Quantrill. I think he should be about 10% owned. He's 5% owned. I have 11. I also have 12% of Manaea. Both guys look like good value arms. I don't really want the bats. People are getting to the Giants a little bit. They are 9th in ownership at 4.5%. It's 13th in ownership for the Guardians at 2.5. I have 1.5 of both. If I'm getting to anything, it's the pitching here. 12% Manaea, 11% Quantrill. I don't see a scenario where I want Cleveland or San Francisco bats in San Francisco. Chris Williams, I forgot you're an Apple person. Are there going to be new? Do you know if there are new AirPods? My AirPods are on their last legs, and I'm hoping that I could just pick up a new pair of whatever drops. So, going to need to do that. Dog hair on me. But yeah, my plan is I don't really need much of anything. I don't really care about the launch of the phone. Fair, Chris. Fair. I got the Apple Watch Ultra a couple months ago, so I certainly don't need that. I got an old pair of AirPods and my new AirPods just sitting here. The new ones are the ones that are dying, unfortunately. What else do I just don't know if I need anything else. I have the MacBook M2 Max, so I don't need that. So just any new AirPods, and I don't want to buy the old ones. Never understood the appeal of the Apple Watch. If I got rid of everything else, I would be happy. I love it. Don't have to have my phone with me at all times. Tracks every bit of my sleep, my heart, my temperature, all sorts of biometric data that I love to have. Notifications are fantastic. Tracking working out, great. I love my watch. How do I kill AirPods? I put 8 to 10 hours a day on them every day for a year. They just wear out. I don't ever really take them out of my ears. I use them constantly. I mean, I can get 2 full days out of my watch without charging it at all. To me, that's great. It doesn't take long to charge it for an hour. Like, I sat down and put it on my charger at the beginning of this show, and then it's just good for 2 days. Like, I don't know. Works for me. All right, let's close this out. Final game. As much as I want to keep talking about Apple products today, I really want to pick up the AirPods Max, the over-the-ear joints, but I don't. It's probably just not worth the money. It's the only thing that I don't have. Probably due for a new iPad too, but that's just in terms of getting a new iPad, it's just kind of useless. I just like technology, always have. But no, I couldn't live without my watch. I've been tracking my sleep with my watch for like 7 years or something like that. It's just like to have access to that and know what my whether or not I have the same blanket as my wife, whether the dog's in the bed, whether I slept on the couch, drinking, smoking. Like, I can get I kind of know how all of that stuff affects my sleep now. It's fun. I like knowing that shit. I know what like 3 days of dieting will do to my sleep the 4th day. I know how exercise impacts my resting heart rate. Yeah, there you go. And if you're in a car accident, your watch can call 911. All right, let's close it out. Dodgers and Padres. 5.2 run implied total for the Dodgers. 4.2 for the Pods. Lance Lynn, Michael Wacha. I don't think you could justify going to Wacha here against the Dodgers. The park plays up power in a big way. Righty power in particular. 202 x ISO against Wacha. Betts and Smith and Martinez look fantastic. The first 5 here are great. First 4 in particular. They're just really hard to roster because the bottom half of the order is so wildly unappealing. But I guess we got to talk about Lance Lynn first. I have him, and the site has him at 15% top 2 pitcher. He's 15% owned. I think that is a perfect number to use as a baseline. Wiggle on it wherever you want. I have 13%. There's so much power potential at the top of this Dodgers lineup against Wacha, but they're like, 6% and change to be the top stack. They're 10th in ownership because they're just so hard to get to financially. I don't have a ton. I have 5%. I have 7 stacks. Like, I'm over the field on the Dodgers, but it's hard to get to them in volume, at least the way that I see it. On the opposite side here, though, for the Pods, they hit a couple dingers yesterday. I have 9 stacks. They're 3.5% owned. Chunk, what are you talking about here? Have a smidge of faith in the guy? It's not faith, it's health. He's a 40-year-old quarterback that just tore his Achilles. It's football. I mean, he's not coming back. He's done, man. I think he barely played this year. You can do all the mushrooms and toads and shit you want in the dark cabin, man. You can't make an Achilles just not be bad when you're old. He's done. I hate it. I don't want him to be done, but he's done. 237 x ISO to lefties, 188 to righties for Lance Lynn. Why aren't the Padres more interesting here? Why? This park's got a 120 park factor to righties and lefties. Tatis, Soto, Machado, Bogarts, Trent Grisham. There's a lot of power in this Padres lineup. I think the Padres, just like yesterday, are sneaky to go crazy. Lance Lynn has the ability to give up a lot of power. Don't be afraid to get Padres bats. To me, they're sneaky. If they're 3.5% owned, if I could get to like 8%, I'd be pretty happy with that stand. If 5% owned Tatis is the most expensive guy, like I think the Padres are like pseudo more appealing than the Dodgers. So that's what we got. I'm going to sum it up. My favorite stacks for today: Cubs, Yankees, Rockies, sneak stack Padres. Pitchers: Brian Wu, Verlander. And then I'm down to get weird with some of the value. Cal Quantrill, Sean Manaea, Cutter Crawford. Because I think it's necessary if you want to get to the Dodgers, the Padres, you got to dip your toe in the water of some of that value. But we got through all 10 games. Got a couple minutes yet before we truly need to duck out. Reminder, NFL Strategy Show is coming up next on this channel. Not on this stream, though. You get Laffy and Ben breaking down the NFL. I assume this is week 2 something or other. Let me double check that. But I assume this is the first look at week 2, or is this the recap? I know we've changed our shows around a little bit, so I don't want to misspeak. First look, week 2 picks coming up next. Yeah, you guys don't want to miss that show at all. That's going to be as good as anything you're going to find in the industry. Tony, I feel the same way. I can't wait for the NBA as well. That's all I got, everybody. What do we got for a schedule for the rest of the week? Let's look at that quickly before we get out of here. So tomorrow, we're going to have... We may be able to talk about a 4-game early, but we got a standard like 10-game-ish main. No, actually, it's going to be a little bit less. If they're not including those 6 o'clock games, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-game main tomorrow. And then kind of an ugly early Thursday. 5-game main on Thursday. Nobody's going to give a shit about that one because of football. And then Friday, we go full bore like normal. So it's going to be a good week, folks. Thanks for being here. Hit that like button. Watch the content. Sign up for Owner's Box. But most importantly, go check out the NFL Strategy Show coming up next. They're starting it at 11 o'clock. Go take a leak, grab yourself a drink, and sit back down. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow morning.